When the woman starts to ignore you, the first and most powerful move you can make is to withdraw your attention completely. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things for many men to do because attention feels like love and taking it back feels like punishment. But this isn't about revenge, it's about reclaiming your power. You need to understand that your presence, your energy, your time, those are privileges, not guaranteed. And when someone starts to act like they don't value them, the only response that demands respect is to step back and give them the silence they've earned. The truth is, chasing someone who's ignoring you only feeds their ego. It tells them that no matter how they treat you, you'll still be there, waiting, hoping for a scrap of attention. That dynamic kills your self-respect and only pushes them further away. By withdrawing your attention, you shift the balance instantly. Suddenly, they're no longer being chased, no longer having their ego stroked, no longer in control of the dynamic. You've flipped the script without saying a single word. Silence is powerful because it forces her to sit with the reality of your absence. At first, she might not notice. She might even assume you'll come back around like you always do. But slowly, she'll start to feel the shift. She'll wonder why you're not checking in, why you're not watching her stories, why your energy has disappeared from her life. And that's when the regret begins to creep in because people always value what they suddenly lose access to. Withdrawing your attention also gives you space to refocus on yourself. Instead of wasting energy trying to convince her of your worth, you start proving it to yourself. You have time to think clearly, to work on your goals, to reconnect with what makes you feel powerful and grounded. That shift in focus not only heals you faster, but makes you more attractive because nothing is more magnetic than someone who knows their value and doesn't hand it out free. It's important to understand that the silence isn't about manipulation, it's about respect. Respecting yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't see your worth and letting your actions, not your words, make the statement. Because when you're no longer available, when you stop being the one who keeps the connection alive, she's forced to confront a reality she never considered, that you were the one adding value all along. And here's the beauty of it. Whether she comes back or not, you win. If she realizes what she lost and tries to reconnect, it'll be on your terms with you holding the power. And if she doesn't, you've already set yourself free to attract someone who actually values what you bring to the table. In the end, the silence teaches her what words never could, that ignoring you came at a cost she can't afford. If she starts ignoring you, one of the strongest responses isn't to argue, beg, or demand attention. It's to focus on building yourself up in ways that make your absence impossible to ignore. This isn't about pretending to move on or faking confidence. It's about genuinely shifting your energy toward growth, purpose, and self-improvement. Because here's the truth, when you invest in yourself, you change the dynamic without ever having to say a word. The first step is to redirect the time and energy you are wasting on her into things that elevate your life. Hit the gym and take care of your health, not for her, but for yourself. Set new goals for your career or your business and start making progress toward them. Build your skills, expand your social circle, and create a life that excites you. When you do this, you stop being the guy waiting around for her attention and start becoming the man she can't help but notice, even from a distance. There's something magnetic about a man who is focused on his mission. Women sense it, they feel it. When you're no longer texting, no longer orbiting their world, because you're too busy creating something meaningful in your own. Suddenly, you're no longer predictable. You're no longer sitting in the same place she left you. Instead, you're evolving. And that evolution is what makes her start to question her decision to ignore you. More importantly, this growth builds your confidence, and confidence changes everything. When you know your worth, you stop tolerating behavior that doesn't align with it. You're no longer desperate for her validation because you've built validation from within. That self-assured energy is what flips the script, because while she may have once felt like she was in control, she now realizes you don't need her to feel valuable. The best part is that this shift isn't about her. It's about you. Whether she notices or not, you're becoming a better, stronger, more disciplined version of yourself. And that version of you won't chase someone who doesn't see your value. He'll attract people who genuinely do. That's how you teach her the price of ignoring you. Not through arguments, but through action, through results, through the undeniable proof that you're leveling up while she's standing still. And if she decides to come back around, it'll be on different terms because the man you've become isn't the same man she ignored. You'll be in a position of power with the clarity to decide whether she even deserves access to you again. That's the real win. Not just making her regret her choice, but building yourself up so much that her opinion no longer defines you. By choosing growth over reaction, you send the strongest message of all. Your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable, and they belong to someone who recognizes that. Silence is powerful because it forces her to sit with the reality of your absence. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, and stop trying to win her attention, you create a space where she can actually feel the weight of what she's lost. Most men make the mistake of over-communicating when they're ignored, sending long texts, asking what went wrong, or trying to convince her of their worth. But every time you do that, you're teaching her that your attention is free, that your emotions are easy to manipulate, and that you'll always be there no matter how she treats you. The real power comes when you take that attention away. By going silent, you're sending a message without uttering a single word. You're showing her that you respect yourself enough not to chase someone who doesn't value you. And believe me, that shift does not go unnoticed. Women are intuitive. They pick up on changes in energy faster than you realize. When the texts stop coming, when your name stops appearing in her notifications, when you stop liking her pictures or engaging in her world, that silence speaks louder than anything you could have said. At first, she might feel relief or even pride in thinking you finally gave up, but as the days and weeks go by, something starts to change. She starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you no longer care enough to reach out. That curiosity turns into uncertainty, and uncertainty creates discomfort. Suddenly she's replaying moments in her head, trying to figure out when and why the shift happened and whether she underestimated your value. This is the moment when silence flips the script. You're no longer the man waiting for attention. You've become the man she's trying to figure out. And the beauty of this approach is that you haven't played any games or lowered your dignity. You've simply redirected your energy toward yourself. You've shown her, without confrontation, that you are not a man to be taken for granted. Silence also gives you clarity. By stepping back, you can see the situation for what it truly is instead of through the lens of emotion. You begin to recognize whether she genuinely cares or whether she simply enjoyed the attention you provided. That clarity empowers you to make choices that serve your best interest, not your temporary feelings. When you master the art of silence, you shift the balance of power. You're no longer reacting to her behavior. You're creating an environment where she has to confront the reality of losing your presence. And whether or not she comes back, you've already won because you've chosen self-respect over desperation. That's how silence teaches her the price of ignoring you, by making your absence more valuable than your presence ever was. The greatest lesson you can teach her is that your world does not revolve around her. When she ignores you, instead of fighting for her attention or proving your worth, you quietly shift your focus to yourself and your growth. This doesn't mean pretending to move on just to get a reaction. It means genuinely redirecting your time and energy into things that elevate your life. Your goals, your health, your finances, your purpose. When you do this, you're not only protecting your dignity, but you're also reminding her that you are a man with direction, not a man who waits to be chosen. Nothing captures someone's attention more than the realization that their absence didn't stop your progress. While she was busy ignoring you, you were busy leveling up. You were in the gym, working on your body. You were chasing your career goals, expanding your mind, building the kind of life that attracts respect and admiration. That quiet transformation speaks volumes. It sends a message far louder than any words you could ever text or any conversation you could ever have. People often crave what they can't easily have. And when you show her that her silence didn't break you, in fact, it motivates you, you become more magnetic, she starts to see that she no longer has the same control over your emotions, and that shift unsettles her. Suddenly, the man she thought would wait forever is no longer waiting at all. That realization plants a seed of regret because now she knows she's no longer dealing with the same version of you. This approach also helps you regain your sense of power because your energy is no longer wasted trying to change your mind. Instead, it's invested in creating a version of yourself that naturally commands respect and attraction. And the best part, you're not doing it for her. You're doing it because you understand that you are the prize. And anyone who fails to recognize that isn't meant to stay in your life. When she eventually sees the new you, whether through mutual friends, social media, or by simply noticing your absence, it hits differently. She realizes that ignoring you didn't make you weaker, it made you stronger. She starts to question her decision, wondering if she underestimated your value, and that quiet doubt begins to grow. That's when the tables truly turn because you're no longer the man who needs her validation. You've built a life so fulfilling and focused that whether she comes back or not, you're already winning. By redirecting your attention toward your growth instead of her silence, you're not only teaching her the price of ignoring you, but also elevating yourself to a place where her opinion holds less and less power. And that, in the end, is the ultimate form of strength. One of the most powerful ways to teach her the price of ignoring you is by protecting your energy and establishing unshakable boundaries. When someone treats you as though your presence doesn't matter, the worst thing you can do is continue offering them unlimited access to your time, attention, and emotions. By stepping back, creating space, and showing that you value yourself enough not to beg for scraps of acknowledgement, you silently communicate a message that speaks louder than words. Your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Boundaries aren't about anger or revenge, they're about self-respect. When you stop answering her calls immediately, when you no longer rearrange your life to fit her schedule, or when you simply stop entertaining conversations that make you feel belittled or ignored, you're not being cold, you're being clear. You're showing her that the dynamic has changed. She's no longer dealing with a man who allows his emotions to be controlled by her attention or lack of it. Instead, she's dealing with someone who knows his worth and isn't afraid to walk away when that worth isn't recognized. What makes this so effective is that silence and distance force reflection. At first, she may try to convince herself that you're just playing a game or that you'll eventually come back, but as time goes on and you maintain those boundaries, not with malice, but with consistency, she starts to realize that you're serious. And that realization cuts deeper than any argument or confrontation ever could, because it shifts the power dynamic entirely. In many cases, this is the exact moment when regret begins to set in. She starts to question whether she misjudged you, whether she pushed away someone who truly valued her. And ironically, it's often only when you pull back completely that she begins to see your true value. That's the price of ignoring you, the painful awareness that she lost access to someone rare, someone grounded, someone who refuses to be disrespected. But here's the key. You don't set these boundaries with the intention of making her feel regret. You do it because you finally understand that your energy is sacred. You have dreams to chase, goals to achieve, and a life to build, and you simply don't have the capacity to waste on someone who doesn't value what you bring to the table. That mindset shift is what makes this move so powerful because it comes from a place of strength rather than desperation. And when she eventually notices that your world didn't crumble without her, that you're thriving, focused, and at peace, it forces her to confront a reality she didn't expect. She thought you'd always be there, waiting. Instead, you've shown her that you'll be just fine without her. That's when the silence becomes deafening, and that's when the lesson truly sinks in. The final and perhaps most profound way to teach her the price of ignoring you is by leveling up your life in silence. There is nothing more powerful, nothing more undeniable than a man who channels his energy into becoming the best version of himself instead of wasting it trying to convince someone of his worth. When you stop chasing, stop begging, and stop pouring your time into someone who refuses to value it, you suddenly free up the most valuable resource you have, your focus. And when that focus turns inward, when it's directed at building your career, improving your health, nurturing your passions, and creating a life you're proud of, the impact is unstoppable. This isn't about trying to make her jealous or proving a point, it's about choosing yourself. The truth is, most people underestimate the strength of a man who is truly content in his own lane. While she may have thought you'd spiral without her attention, what truly shakes her to her core is seeing you rise quietly, without the need for validation or applause. She sees you becoming more confident, more disciplined, and more at peace, and that's when the regret cuts the deepest. Because she realizes that while she was busy ignoring you, you were busy evolving. There's a unique kind of silence that comes with progress. You don't have to announce your every move or broadcast your wins. They speak for themselves. Maybe you're in the gym consistently and your body is transforming. Maybe you've been grinding on your business or your career and now you're starting to see results. Maybe you're surrounding yourself with better people, friends, mentors, or communities that push you to grow. Every small step you take builds a version of you that is stronger, sharper, and more grounded. And without even trying, you become the man she can't ignore. And here's the irony. The more you invest in yourself, the less you care whether she ever notices or not. Your validation no longer comes from her attention. It comes from the progress you see when you look in the mirror, from the confidence you feel when you walk into a room knowing you've built yourself into someone you respect. That energy is magnetic, and whether she admits it or not, she feels it. The real lesson you teach her, without ever saying a word, is that you were never dependent on her attention to thrive. By choosing growth over bitterness, action over reaction, you've shown that her decision to ignore you didn't break you. It built you, and that is a reality she can't escape, because deep down, she'll always know she overlooked a man who refused to stay stagnant, a man who turns silence into opportunity. In the end, your greatest response to being ignored will always be quiet, relentless progress.